Okay, it's 7 o'clock, being called to order, roll call,
Sure. Yeah.
we'll share here. Okay. Minutes of September 10th,
I would suggest you hold off on those because Mr. Day wasn't here. And you would be the only one with Mr. Parker not here tonight.
oh, all right,
You really can't vote on them.
so we can't vote on
I
it?
would just hold off and we'll put them on the next agenda as well.
Okay,
If you have any edits, you can certainly
I
give
didn't,
those,
I thought that they were fine.
but I would hold off on the
Okay.
voting. And so
All right.
we'll just remember to put it full on the next agenda.
Okay, public session. Anybody here for public session?
Sweet.
Going once?
We're going right along.
Going twice, all right, nobody here for public session. Surplus vehicle auction.
All right, good evening, everybody. With some of the vehicles that we've replaced, I'd like to auction off a couple vehicles. One of them, the beloved Ranger, we replaced that with the Tacoma. It's done us well, but I think it's time to auction that. And then the other one is the large water van. That van was replaced also with the Tacoma, and I think it's time to move along from that one. For now, I'm going to propose we hold on to the small water van for a short time. It's not worth a ton. It still operates. It's not worth a ton of money. The big van's worth quite a bit of money on the market right now because those vans are like a hot commodity. We actually just quoted one out for facilities. They're trying to do a grant. It's almost $60,000
Give them that.
for a gutted, stripped out thing. So, so we're gonna let him use the little van while they're waiting for he's a joint guy. He does both West Boylston and Sterling, so we share him. So they're putting in for a regionalization to get him a vehicle for between the two towns. So that's but anything we auction, any money we got from water van would, it would all go to sale used equipment essentially, and then we would be able to purchase other stuff with it. So that's what I'm looking to auction.
Okay, you don't need a vote on that, do you?
If you have any comments, concerns,
think?
then I won't.
Ship them. We got enough.
Yeah, that's one less thing to take care of.
Right, and I mean, as we replace vehicles, it's,
I mean, the Ranger was given to us anyways by the light department.
right.
So
And we were able to replace it with a new vehicle, which is very helpful. We use it. It's used constantly. I mean, and I'm happy to see the Tacoma being used every day as well. You know what I mean? And it's been a good vehicle for us. It's one the guys like to work out of because it's low. So I replaced it with another small vehicle. So those vehicles are handy. All right.
Okay. We're on to cemetery wall evaluation study.
Okay, so I got this report last week. If you remember, it was a capital item for us to have the wall at Oak Hill, in front of Oak Hill, evaluated. Structural integrity, longevity, things like that, as well as the one in Choxet Cemetery that runs, that kind of borders from Clinton Road to Maple Street. So on a extremely hot July 8th, 2024, Paul and I went out there with the engineers for about 2 to 3 hours and walked the entire wall at a very slow pace. That's where all the photos came from, the various photos that you see. Took a lot of measurements. We observed, all the deficiencies. We observed some of the drainage. It's pretty unique. If you look at the report, they actually broke it up into 3 walls. So wall 1 is, say, furthest, I think I'd say south, furthest towards Lancaster. Wall 2 is closer to the center on Oak Hill, and then wall 3 is located at the Choxet Cemetery. So just to kind of go through and summarize the report, essentially, we'll start with Choxit. They were not recommending a full replacement of the wall, but instead to make repairs if needed. And most importantly, the railings are the things that needs the most repair. The railings run the length of the wall. The posts have pretty much, rotted. I'm honestly not even sure where some of them began their life. They did note that it was kind of difficult. We can't really see the foundation of these walls. We didn't do destructive testing. Choxit in particular is built up with like leaves and sticks, and I mean we can't really get to the depths of it. But let me back up real quick before I get into costs. What they did was they did called OPCs, or opinion of probable cost. This is a high level view. Okay, this is not what it's going to cost. This is about what it could cost. And I'd like to point your attention to where the costs are, and it says contingency, 40%. That's an extra 40% onto the construction cost because of all the unknowns at this point, right? We were just evaluating, and we're trying to use these numbers to get a direction as to where we want to go next. Replacement, repair, things like that. So with that contingency at Choxit, they estimated about $560,000 worth of work. Just to summarize, so that included, clearing some of the trees, doing, a lot of excavation for the posts, the sonotubes, kind of resetting some of the blocks, and then, of course, installing new wrought iron railings, which are pretty expensive. It also includes, they carried 20% for, say, the design, the bidding, the construction, all that stuff as well. So again, those are just simply percentages here. They're not actual numbers. That's pretty typical for this level of an opinion of probable cost. So that's kind of where that one stood. Like I said, the railings are probably the biggest concern over there. Moving on to the Oak Hill walls, they costed them out separate. I'm going to kind of combine them because I think that we would, if we were going to do something, we're going to do them both at the same time. They went through both repair and replacement options. So replacement options included cast in place walls. That was the most expensive at about $5.59 million. Stone masonry walls, which would probably closest emulate what we have out there. There's a little bit less, but still right around 5.5 million, 5.52. And then like a precast block wall. And that's what they talk about in the back, the ready wall. It has like the texture to it and whatnot. But that's about 2.87 million. Definitely would look a little different, character wise. As far as repairing the existing walls, that would be about 2.2 million in an estimate. And again, remember, there's a 40% contingency here. So, on that 2.2 million, there's about 500,000 of that is contingency. So just keep that in mind. What the repair would cover is temporarily support the walls. They'd excavate everything behind the walls. And by support the walls, I mean support the slope behind it, right? Not the walls themselves, support the slope behind it. Dig behind it, install proper drainage through the walls. So we noticed what they call wall 2, which is the wall closest to Main Street. Right. That has drainage. Right. I don't think it's working. It looked pretty plugged up, but it's there. We were even surprised to see that. Wall 1 does not have any drainage. Wall 1's the shorter of the walls. Closest to Lancaster. So to install drains, make repairs, to infill some of the wall stones. We did know that the capstones are in very good shape. They're all granite. They're all consistent. None of those are broken. They look really good. They're very long. They're neat pieces that could certainly be reused. And then restacking, I think they estimated about the top 2 feet. But obviously that would change as we went and did an actual design and really, but that's what they used for their estimation purposes. So for both of those walls, about 2.2 million, and again, with huge contingencies. So the whole purpose of this study, in my mind, was to get an idea of what we're looking at, which is kind of what they gave us, and steer us in a direction moving forward. I think we all agree that something needs to be done, especially on those Oak Hill walls. The other walls, I think that, the railing is important. I don't know that it would be in the same project. I think it might be a different project because it's such a different type of discipline. I feel like we might be able to put it in the same bid package, but it's something to consider anyway. So I'm open to your thoughts if you guys think, we can obviously take more time to read the report. I know I didn't send it to you to the end of last week, but open to your thoughts.
Well, my gut reaction is that chalk set should probably be treated separately because that absolutely is a historic cemetery. I consider both of them personally, but I know you have Revolutionary War dead soldiers in your cemetery, that takes to a different level, at least in this state. So we could probably get good funding from someone to help chop set. Just keeping that separate is probably smart to do. I don't know. What do you think? I think I'm stretching it.
I think that what they're
Don't hold back, Mr.
Yeah.
The historical commission will certainly want ample, piece of that, the way it looks and how.
I would be very worried
Flip
about
it
it. Yeah.
over then.
I think we would all be worried about it. My gut reaction on the other walls is, what does it cost and what is like a repair? If we could do a quality repair, that'll last a long time. I don't think if they're saying as engineers that we don't have to replace the walls, if they think we can repair them for that kind of cost savings, I think it would be kind of insane not to at least seriously consider that. But what do you get for what do you spend is always a question. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Ready Block visual.
Yeah.
The visual, I think, it's a nice looking wall right now if it weren't falling down, I don't think a Ready Block would ever be in.
Right. It would have texture to it, but it
Yeah.
would look very precast.
Yep.
Placed,
Cost factor, what's more practical,
Right. It's, I look at the Ready Block is similar in cost to the repair.
Right. I'd rather
Obviously
have
the other two were like so almost double.
Right. But for all we know with the other two, whether it's regardless, they're going to have to hold back the soil to do the walls no matter what.
It all includes,
Right.
every single thing includes digging behind the wall,
Right.
whether you're replacing it or repairing it.
Right. So
Both sides of that wall will be exposed.
So at one point, I believe we were discussing whether we should make them a little taller.
That was thought of to take the slope,
Well,
because what that would do is lessen the slope as it comes down, right? It doesn't have to come down as far.
Right.
Maybe that would be helpful. It's easy to say like, oh, just grow grass over there. Well, the
no,
way the sun angles and it
Yeah.
doesn't grow grass.
no, it's really tough.
It's not that easy.
Is the depth of the wall the same as the top of the granite? Granite.
The thickness, I think that's what they mean by, where'd you see depth of wall?
Well, I just, how far we have to go in.
Oh, I see.
How far the wall is in.
It doesn't go too much further behind
How do we know that?
Yeah, if you look at this picture on like page 13,
Yeah.
you can see the whole.
I was just thinking, how far back
Behind
it was. People own stuff behind
Oh,
it
where the
too.
lots, how far the lots go.
I mean,
more up toward the top of the hill.
we just gotta make,
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
No, absolutely.
Well, I was taught that stone retaining walls had to be as high as it is. That's how deep it is at the base.
well, you got a footing.
Yeah.
Gotta be a footing there.
Well, there'd
I don't
be,
know.
We hope.
yeah, that would be the
We
right
don't
way.
know.
Those are the ones that have lasted forever.
What?
the stone walls, that's probably how Chox it is, because that's how they used to do it. It was just standard
Well,
practice.
City, you look at one of these pictures, they're staggered granite too.
Right, they are.
Yeah,
So,
Jock's
you
it,
know,
it's interesting. It was a mix of big boulders
Right,
and small.
And millions of leaves from
Right.
millions of years of blowing them over that.
yeah, that's
Thing.
true, that's true. Well,
Good compost there,
yeah, that's probably true.
good earth there, Blaine.
Yeah, yeah. So it would be interesting to know if you guys, what the cost benefit would be to raise the wall a little bit from a maintenance standpoint, and then what are the costs involved? Don't you think? I mean, it's just at this stage, but my gut, what is your gut?
It's quite a project,
Yeah,
no matter what we do, and
Big
it's a
nugget.
lot of money.
A lot of money.
And I can't see this town spending that kind of money on,
well, what happens when it falls down? If
Then
somebody
we have to
hits
fix it.
somebody, it hits somebody.
but
Somebody
the
gets
thing is,
hurt.
it does fall down. I
Yeah,
mean, we're constantly picking up concrete, rocks, stuff like that. These railings in here have been there since I was a kid.
oh, you're talking about Choxit.
Or
Yeah,
both,
both. Well, I'm,
You know?
I'm worried about injury in both locations. But I mean,
thing is, we can't take down anything, because if you take anything down, even the rotten ones in Reed, I call it Reed. I mean, you gotta replace them. You gotta replace it with something.
And
It's
you gotta
a
attach-
barrier.
You gotta attach them to something.
It's a safety barrier as it is, no matter if they're rotted off at the rock or not. I mean, you know, and Oak Hill's been that way forever,
yeah,
and it's just disintegrating.
You can see it been repaired a number of times as far as like repointing.
Right.
There's a lot of
Right.
mortar in there, especially on the second wall.
Yeah.
The first one is a little bit more dry, but as you get to the other side where it gets really high,
yeah.
that's where it's clearly been some mortar, packed in there. That's where you can see some of the drains.
You know, most of the trees up there are grown to their whatever they're gonna grow to, so we're don't have to worry about more pushing out.
And
but
they're set pretty far back. I don't think we need to take too many of them.
It's just, it's just gonna cost a lot of money, and it's a one heck of a project.
It's also a visual for the entrance to the town. So it
It
has
is.
a value,
It is.
but it would be a town discussion to come up with the money for that. It also could be a state rep discussion to get the money from that, We have to, talk,
We were trying to get any information we could out of like DOT, because what we assumed, that road's so wide. I know that DOT did work on it in the 90s. Obviously, how the road was built, but we were kind of looking at it under the assumption that maybe DOT had a piece in widening it, thus building the walls, because we don't think the walls are always there. The walls were there when that road's almost 60 feet wide. It's giant shoulders. We have no other roads like that in town except for Leg Road. DOT built it. On that I-190 underpasses, you know what I mean? Like it meets that spec. Long story short, they couldn't find anything. But and even the historical commission couldn't find much. They found some photos, but they were from like the 40s, and the wall was there.
Yeah,
40s.
I mean, it's been there a long time.
Yes. Oh, probably close to 100 years would be my
Oh, yeah.
guess. 20s, 30s, somewhere in there.
I mean, good job whoever built it, because it lasted.
It's still standing.
Mhm.
It's just fading away. The rocks are giving out.
Yep.
The earth is pushing behind it.
A lot of it is the drain, the drainage,
Drain.
water pushes, and there's
Yep.
even being up on the hill, it still gets water in it.
Oh,
And come Memorial Day, what they're string trimming and mowing, and especially the second wall where it gets higher there,
yeah.
it's nothing but dirt now.
Right.
Since we took the bushes out of there, which kind of held something back a little bit, it's just open if we get a heavy rain, that we find rocks on the sidewalk all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's so hard packed that water just runs.
Well, it's not our fault, but it's our problem.
So
Here's to fix it.
here's my
We have to deal with it.
my question. As we come into budget season, I think it's a hard stretch for us to, you know what I mean? Like, it's too soon in this process really to, slap $3 million on our capital plan, right? For a project like this, we need to plan for it for a couple of years in advance.
I think we need to look into it a lot more than we are.
I agree. So would you like me to carry a little bit of money to maybe get those contingencies down, right? It might include some test pits behind the wall to look at some see if it has a foundation, maybe even cutting up a little piece of sidewalk and digging on the front of the wall and trying to get a profile of what we're working with so that we can, because the more information you have, the lower those contingencies get and the finer we can get to an actual estimate,
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just to keep the project moving. It doesn't mean we need to choose the direction we go, but it's going to really finalize or
Well, I think
drill down
It'll
those.
put us in the right direction of
Right.
what we're gonna deal with behind it, in front of it, and it's just gonna get worse no matter what. If we
Yeah, it's
don't-
not going to fix itself.
It's not gonna, I mean, we can butter that thing up for centuries and it probably won't fall over because we're looking at it, but
Right.
but like Blaine said, it's the safety part. You never know, one of the guys could be up there mowing and all of a sudden it just,
right.
oh God, it just falls down.
Yeah.
I mean, look what happened down the street. I mean, act of God, boom,
Right.
fall down.
Right.
So I think we should continue
Yeah.
looking into this, and if we need to, whoever we need to contact to do some test bores and some whatever, we'll maybe look into it.
Okay.
So we should definitely add some money.
We'll carry some money. So what I'm gonna do is I'll carry some money and then you'll probably see money for the next couple years. Because what that does is it gives the finance committee or the capital committee just an idea of what could be coming. You know what I mean? And it's not a surprise when 3-4 years down the line, there's a number there.
Yep.
So I'll circle back, we'll kind of come up with a plan of attack with the engineers as the best way to approach this. What I would envision would be like, let's do some more testing, maybe get some conceptual design stuff, and then like actual designs. And then we can, again, that will really take that 40% back,
And I think we need to start coordinating with the historic people
Yeah.
to see what kind of grants there are for chop set.
Yep.
I mean,
You don't ask.
we have
you
a
don't
lot
get.
we have a lot of cemeteries in this town.
That's
These are the two we just see the most.
well.
And you
there's
go
also-
out on Chase Hill and you got the one out there that
it's a good
people
point.
don't even know.
Right. Don't even
That's
know
up
exist.
I mean, that's got a big wall in front of it too.
Yeah, but
It's
a-
buried.
Oh, I was gonna say, I never know.
Yeah, it's fallen over.
Yeah. Huh.
So I think we gotta look at, if we're gonna look at two, we're gonna look at them all. I mean,
I think for where there's like, especially that Oak Hill one, like proximity to the sidewalk and the
Yeah.
roadway, I just think
that
it's,
bothers me.
yeah.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Cause one of these days, it's just gonna,
Yep.
I don't wanna hold on anymore. That's what it's gonna say.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we don't need a vote on it.
No, I think that's a great discussion. So I think we have a good direction going forward. Like I
A
said,
lot of money.
you'll see some money. It gives us an idea, right?
Yep.
It's not 200 grand.
Nope.
It's big money.
It's a long.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it turns it into a 2-year project to a 5 or something like that.
Right.
And maybe something that the town can work to save for however that may happen, so.
Okay, next is DPW superintendent. Review and salary discussion.
So it's that time of year again. Believe it or not, 3 years,
Yeah.
end of October. Went by fast.
Time's a flying.
I know, kind of scary. I'm open to feedback, please. These are always so awkward.
It's not awkward because he's worth every penny. And then
Absolutely. It
This, he's
shouldn't be.
turned this place around like 360 and.
I
and
can't take all the credit.
He's nonstop. I mean, most superintendents sit in an office and count pennies and go on computers, and he's out there.
He does that.
Water breaks, doing all this stuff too that he doesn't really need to do. And I mean, he's worth everything that he asked for, I think.
Dean and I actually agree more than we disagree, but I think he actually understated. As I really appreciate the last 3 years, Ryan. I feel like we've become friends in a way, and
I'm friends with all you guys. I like that.
yeah, and it seems like the morale in this DPW is just, I mean, you get this amount of people together, there's going to be friction. It just doesn't seem like it's anywhere like it was by far. Then you drive around all these roads all over the state, and we're doing good. We got a ways to go, but we're doing so much better. I was in Rutland. Oh my God. I won't even talk about Leominster.
And they get twice as many people.
Hmm?
They have twice as many people working there than we do.
And
And
larger budgets.
that tells you a lot.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you know more about how many people are there than I do. I just look at the results. And
They get a lot more money than we do.
well, we're fully staffed, and not many places can say that. And I give you a lot of the credit for that, whether you think you deserve it or not. Yeah. I really appreciate the job that you've done. I don't, and that you continue on doing. So I'm of the opinion that you're underpaid, and that's my opinion.
I appreciate that. I often think back to like when I first walked in the door, and I mean, honestly, these guys, particularly the ones to my left and right, and the rest of them here could have taken me coming in the door in a number of different ways, right? But and I was concerned about that when I took the job,
Yep.
because you never know what you're going to walk into, right? And what's that famous saying in DPW? Is the way it was always done, right? Yep. And I think that they've been so open to doing new, different things that we have this, and honestly, a lot of it's trial and error, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the stuff that we do, I've never done before, and we kind of band together as a team and get them done. And I think that's the thing I enjoy the most about the job is, kind of working together with everybody, everyone's different ideas, and bouncing things off each other and making it happen. It's a lot of work. It's got its challenges for sure. It's got its good days and its bad days, but I really like working for this town. It's a good town to work for. It's a great group of guys. I'm happy to come to work with them every day, and I stress that with them. I can't do any of this by myself. So
I would like to add one thing, because we had a discussion about the need or the necessity of having different standards, more stringent standards, because the state standards are so lax in some departments as far as roads are concerned, for instance, and road drainage. And I was just until just recently a person who said, we have to look at the numbers of the worst rainstorm and design for that. And Ryan sort of, and I'm saying this for everybody here and whoever might be listening, Ryan sort of taught me that there's a better way of doing it. And the better way of doing it is using, what did you call them? Sound engineering practices. Right. So that the reason Leominster had problems in the same storm, Meeting House Hill, which wasn't completed, didn't, is because of sound engineering practices were actually done and built by you guys. And in the end, everything's so site specific with drainage and roads, you kind of have to do that.
There's a level of practicality to it. It
Yep,
needs to be practical. You gotta be able to do it.
right.
There's houses, there's buildings. We
Right.
have to work around them.
You can sit there and pontificate about all of the water that could happen. But in the end, you gotta make it work. And, I really appreciate your approach and your, and the education that you've been giving to those of us who are paying attention.
Thank you.
And I thank you for that.
I can't say enough. I mean, I've been here a long time. Worked here a long time, and I had one of the hardest bosses here ever. And to listen to the boys here now compliment their boss, and they would lose their feet for you.
Appreciate that.
And I think that goes a long way when all your boys and girls, your women and everybody looks to see you come in that door in the morning. And that's a big thing, you know. Hats off to you, Ryan. You took over a bucket of poop and we got roses growing now, so
Thanks to Jen.
It's true.
I think it, you know, it is, it's a wonderful thing, and there's not just me saying that. I bet you there's a lot of people out there that are thanking you for our new roads and stuff like that. And it's, you know, they don't know you like I know you. And, you know, I'm not saying because I've known you a long time, it's
Right.
just what you brought to this town is, it's something we haven't seen in a
It
while.
was what I was looking for. It couldn't have worked out better,
You know.
I think, for both of us.
And to have all your manpower, I think 110% of you is huge,
Appreciate that.
you know, and they can go to
Same with
you,
them.
you know, and they can sit down in the office and talk. And,
Yeah.
you know, before it was like
No,
no time. So I think it's,
so I'd like to make a motion here that we, ask, I don't know if we demand.
So, you don't have to
Demand.
ask, you just, I think it's from step 8 to step 9.
Oh, I was going to step
You
10.
can't.
You can't, all right, well, I'm gonna
Where is
suggest
it?
it.
Can, but I would say no.
That's 10. Well, you can ask.
Yeah, but I'd rather,
Okay, well then,
we budget for these things a year in advance.
okay, you're right. All right,
Just in case.
so I make a motion,
Yeah.
I make a motion.
Next year.
You can't do it? Well, you can ask,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Yeah. Liz, what do you think? You have an issue with this? Hmm?
She's capital.
Oh, you're capital. Well, that's great.
Ready?
Whatever.
Mm.
So
Alright.
I make a motion that we increase Ryan's step by from what? 9 to 10,
8 to 9.
8 to 9. See, I'm gonna keep on pushing.
I second it.
In second, all in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Thank you.
double aye.
Yep.
That will,
Got it.
I won't put that in until October, which is my anniversary,
Okay, all right.
or whatever payroll works.
Okay, you're on
Now we
project
just gotta
update.
work on Mike's and Paul's
I know.
and more manpower. I think that's on my agenda,
What?
at least to get a couple more men
Mike.
or women, whatever, whoever comes
We
in
can
the
talk
door.
about it. I'd love to. Not an easy nugget.
Well,
All right.
it's not getting easier.
New DPW facility. So we had our first building committee meeting last month. I thought it went really well. We did a tour of the building. Jonathan Marini is the chairman, Jack Chandler is the vice chairman. I think that worked out pretty well. I think it works out good to have the 2 non-board members in that leadership role.
Right.
I think that's a good way to do it. So Weston and Sampson will be coming in on October 16th, a week from tomorrow, to do a presentation on what we've done so far and where we're going. So that's next week, but that committee is off and running. Route 140-62 intersection. I gave you guys a couple concepts. I think at the last meeting, we had a meeting with DOT. We, through much work through our engineering consultant, I believe we have been able to move away from the 10-foot sidewalks to nowhere that were originally required, which really not only gives us more room in the roundabout, but takes us away from the private property impacts that we were gonna have. If you remember the house on the corner, even though that right of way is big, essentially DOT said that whether your right of way is there or not, if you build this, it will cause irreparable harm to that property. And they're right. You know, that's kind of been my argument the whole time, is that 20 feet out their bedroom window, you know, is
Crap.
a roundabout. So we pushed really hard for that. It was not easy. It is a very high priority for the state on the Boston level to have those pedestrian bicycle facilities. But we were able to prove that it just doesn't work here. It's
Not out there.
enough room.
You kill it over there.
There's still going to be a sidewalk. It's just not going to be like it is down on Route 12. You know, that's a 10-foot
Yeah.
shared use path. That's what we were going to have to do around that.
That's crazy. Yeah.
The islands will also be mountable, similar to the rotaries down there, where so trucks can easily get up on those islands, where before they don't like the mountable islands, they like them not mountable. So, you know, we've made a couple big loops. He jumped through a couple big loops with that, those pieces, you know, to give us a little bit more flexibility in the design. So now the rubber can finally meet the road and they can finally start designing this thing, right?
Yeah.
Everything's been very conceptual. It's been very detailed concepts, but conceptual. So once we reach what's called 25%, I'll bring them back in for another update. And don't be alarmed, 25 to 90 goes much quicker than 0 to 20.
Right.
On Campground Road, I wanted to give you an update on that. I included some photos in your packet. Let's see, the 24th of September, we began work out there. The guys spent an entire week working there. We worked very closely with DCR to make this happen. So essentially, you can kind of see in the pictorial, we excavated everything, took out the old pipes, the old every night we were very cognizant about stream flow. There was very minimal water, which was why this worked out perfect. We were able to maintain it with a couple mudsucker pumps during the day, no problem. We never left it to a point where anything could get washed downstream. We were pumping into filter bags. The water coming out of it was crystal clear. So all that went really well. This was a first for me doing a project of this scope. I think it was the first for these guys. I really went really well. So we put stone in to kind of fill in the voids up to what they call the spring line in the middle of the pipe. And then we covered that with fabric. The plastic that you see in some of these pictures was used temporarily at night to prevent, if it rained, any dirt from washing down. That was a request from DCR. That was removed during the day. After the stone was put in, we used fabric and the road base. We built up the road base. And then on the upstream and downstream, we fabricated over the stone and we used clay on the upstream and downstream so that the water from the stream wouldn't flow through or under the road. So it's about a foot and a half of clay on those slopes. That's covered in fabric. And then there's the riprap on top. Full disclosure, I did a lot of permitting and paperwork with this, but I didn't do enough. So DEP is calling now and they're upset that we didn't work with them to do it. So I will be working with them diligently to get done whatever we need to get done paperwork wise. They have asked me to not pave it until I complete the paperwork. I don't know why, but it's going to sit as dirt for a little while. It's fine. It's a low traffic road. We'll keep an eye on it. But that's what they asked me. We already have a guardrail contractor lined up. Quotes approved. As soon as we pave it, Each side will get guardrail or wrap around like the Hill Road and whatnot, and it'll button it up quite nice. In that regard, I talked to DCR about that today. They called me and they were like, listen, we talked to DEP. You guys were amazing to work with. You did every single thing we asked. We inspected it every day. Like, we got your back. So I appreciate DCR in that regard. And I'll be working with Matt Morrow, who's kind of filling in again as a Concom agent in the absence of a Concom agent, to get that other paperwork taken care of. So I just wanted to make sure that we were fully disclosed about that. Have any comments? No. Any questions on that? It was a big project. Guys did a killer job. I think it came out really good.
It did. I'm really happy with it.
I
I like that they got rid of the head walls. I
Yeah,
think the solution to that's a good example of sound engineering.
I think
Practice
so.
with-
I hope DEP has the same opinion.
Well, DCR does.
DCR like this.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so scheduled road work. So as of right now, status, Elliott Road is in binder. They started up there on some of the, I'll call it handwork, the smaller work today, driveway aprons. They had their crews in doing raising castings. Once all the castings and the driveway aprons are prepped, they'll come in and pull berm. That whole neighborhood gets berm. And then they will top that. On Pratt's, that was reclaimed, graded, and bindered. You will notice that we only bindered up to 25 feet away from the tracks. My whole plan there is to only pay for one railroad flagger. The railroad flaggers are very difficult to get. They're very difficult to schedule. And for that short piece, we can certainly binder that in the same day we do the top. It's about 8 to 10 feet. So I don't plan on leaving that there. I plan on getting it in binder. Went down there when it rained the other day. When Allstates was grading it, they pointed out a couple things to me that I thought were helpful. We're going to dig a little swale along the road from Anderson's driveway to that area. It's all just road sand built up right there. So we're going to dig that down and make a little swale to kind of just convey some of the water. And watching the water run up there the other day it ran really well.
Yeah.
And then the last thing on road work, crack sealing is scheduled to start next week. That'll be about a week of work. We do about $100,000 worth of crack sealing every year. So that starts next week. The walls we talked about tonight. Columbarium, the units have been purchased, as you guys approved at the last meeting. So those are the same units that you saw in the picture. They've been purchased. They are going to stay with them. I mean, I say purchased, the quote's been approved. We're not going to pay for them until they come in. But our pricing is locked in. They're going to stay with them until the spring. We'll put the foundations in the spring. We'll get them delivered at that time. And over the winter, we can work on updating our road regs and getting those from you guys, getting the new pricing in and whatnot. So that schedule will work out quite well. The pavement management plan, they're working diligently to build their database. Unlike the last time, we're going to have all our roads in the initial plan. I've been going back and forth with them. They've been, is this road yours? Is this road yours? Is this cul-de-sac yours? It's not listed. You know what I mean? So we've been going through a lot of those, and then we'll get the scans going on the roads. Moving on to water, Mike and his team and several subcontractors have been working their absolute butts off on the corrosion control stuff. Say Route 12 is damn near ready. Yep, Redemption Rocks right behind it. We are having a little issue at Route 12, kind of unrelated, but we lost a screen which controls just the screen's dead. It doesn't. We can still control everything, but nothing's available. They don't make them anymore, and it's trying to find a refurbished one or one on eBay or something to be able to see what's going on at the station. So that's kind of jamming us up a little bit. It's unfortunate, but we'll work through it. We'll get that inspection scheduled for sometime next week from DEP, and then we'll start on what we call our first year monitoring plan. Crowley Road Source, I signed a contract with Stantec today to begin working on that Article 97 land swap. So that's the next step with that. They're going to be identifying a number of town-owned parcels. that could potentially be swapped with DCR in exchange for this parcel to use for our well site. Finally, Redstone, Ricciardi's supposed to start tomorrow with like erosion control, stuff like that. You know, we've had a couple meetings with them. Do about half the work this year, and then
Well, what's the holdup?
other jobs. Done approve it.
Then they should have.
They're in their contract time, you know, but
We'll see.
that's the holdup. West Sterling, we finally got approved shop drawings for the generators. There was some holdups with the emission stuff, go figure. But we finally got that through. So the generators and the variable frequency drives, which are the two biggest pieces. So as soon as that's approved, which I think it was today, then those will get ordered and they'll start working on those. That's about a month of work, but we want to do a lot of it over the winter months so we can have it taken off. Yeah, that's that.
Okay, superintendent's update.
All right, so line painting townwide was, the long lines were completed. I do plan to bring in a different company, the same one who did the downtown in the early spring. And what they'll do is they'll just refresh all the white downtown, all the parking, all the crosswalks, just right over what was there. And, it'll be easy because it's already there. It was really difficult. Huh?
You got spikes.
I can do spike strip.
They don't obey them.
So we'll do that. We'll get that probably in April. Like I said, crack sealing is scheduled to begin the week of 10/16. After our discussion at the last meeting regarding the loader capital item, we've been in the process of demoing various loaders. Last week we had a Cat 930, and just today they dropped off a Komatsu. We also plan to demo a Deere and a Volvo. The plan would be to get quotes, combine them with the guy's feedback, and then we can determine how we want to move forward on that item. So just to fill you in, so the Volvo's technically up for replacement. It's got 13,000 hours on it. And Andy had a good idea. He said, it's not worth selling it because it's a good machine. It mows for us. I would love to be able to still have two loaders when that thing's out mowing, and a third loader can help us a lot in the winter. So the idea is to purchase a loader as Andy essentially viewed that as a king time bomb, that once it gets to 15,000 hours, it's very hairy. So that's kind of the direction that we're working in right now. So, we are Andy just texted me, just got a hydraulic oil bath, won't be making it tonight. We're once again applying for the salt reduction grant. This year, I'm going to propose the addition of one more closed loop controller, along with some flexible plow blades to bolster up our fleet for the loader plows. Speaking of the closed loop controllers, we're having a training on the systems that we had installed last year for all employees in a couple weeks. This will cover both the operations and the repair side, as a lot of those got installed in the spring. We've used them on the Sidewinder a little bit, but I think we went through one snowstorm with them for salt event, but we'll get a good training from the folks there. Capital budgets are due to the town administrator's office Friday, November 22nd, and operating budgets are due Friday, January 10th. That being said, I hope to have a very close to final capital budget to present to you guys at our next meeting on the 12th of November. And then we'll discuss the operating budget at our December. And then if we need to discuss it in January, we can, but it'll be after the deadline, but any changes I would expect to be pretty minor. I was contacted by Mass DEP to perform what they call a biannual inspection on our capped landfill. Apparently this is something that used to happen quite frequently. However, they've been short-staffed for several years. Since I've been here, we haven't done anything with that landfill. There used to be a line item called landfill monitoring. It was been zeroed out for several years before I got here. Just know that this may trigger the need for more consistent monitoring. If for some reason we were supposed to be monitoring it more than we have been, I don't know. I honestly don't. So very nice woman contacted me, and I'm meeting with her next week to walk it. And I said, the beautiful thing is we're down at the toe of that landfill just about every day. Like we would see if we had some issues with leaching and things like that. She was like, do you mow it? I said, absolutely. We mow it 3 times a year, 4 times a year. I drove down today. It looks great. So, I think we've been doing the right things. Just might need to be doing a little bit more testing or something. I'll keep you guys
When
posted.
she want to mow the floor before she.
I looked today. I thought it looked really good.
I know.
It was hardly ankle high. Oh, that's why I looked. Office staff, along with the water department's been hard at work completing what we call our lead service line inventory. This is something that all water systems across the country are required to complete by October 16th, so next Wednesday. Part of this inventory after the Wednesday deadline is going to require letters to be sent to homes with an unknown water service material. Now, the water services are buried in the ground. They've been there for however many years. So we're diligently going through tie cards, plans. Every time we've done a meter, we've looked, and we need to put it into this giant spreadsheet with all this information. We're at the point now where we're kind of filling in a bunch of the blanks, but there are going to be unknowns. So it's okay to have an unknown. We do not believe that we have any lead service lines in Sterling. We never come across one. We've looked at some of the oldest houses, you know, especially like downtown and whatnot. I don't believe there are any. So essentially what's going to happen is any unknowns we'll send a letter to and just say, your water service is unknown, contact the DPW. We'll come out and inspect it. When we inspect it, we'll replace the meter and it'll, you know, kind of be a 2-for-1 deal. And essentially once this deadline hits and we get those letters out, we have a long time to build that database back. So, you know, I'll keep you guys posted about those letters that they love letters.
Yeah.
EPA, DEP, people love them.
So I have a question about
Sure.
that, because I'm wondering what the attitude is about the copper pipes that were soldered with lead solder, like 1950 or something.
So it's somewhat related.
Yeah.
That goes more to what we're doing with the corrosion control work at the stations, where we're protecting that, but we don't have a way. So it's a little bit of both, right? People get lead in their drinking water through lead service lines,
right,
or the lead solder or lead and brass.
Right.
We don't have lead in our water. Like when the water comes out of the ground and flows through the water mains, there's not lead in there. That lead leaches out of plumbing fixtures or water service. So remember, this is nationwide. Look at, you know, like places like Flint. Flint is what sparked most of this stuff, Flint, Michigan. Or go towards Boston. They have lead service lines all over the place and they're working on replacing them. They've been working on them for many years. But the idea is to get a essentially nationwide database of all the service lines to get an idea of what's there. Once again, it's kind of unfortunate that all this stuff falls on our shoulders as water suppliers. I just think we're the easy targets. They just keep pushing more and more and more and more and more stuff. Water's just getting so challenging. It wears on you. Wears on Mike. I know that. It's not getting any easier. It's just so challenging. All these regulations bring so much paperwork and effort that, you know, we want to be out in the field making the corrections, but instead we're doing the next round of paperwork. You know what I mean? So, through this process, I've learned that I need to be better about asking for help and just hiring someone to help us with this stuff and not try to do everything. You know, like I like to do stuff in house, but at some point I gotta let go and we gotta get some help. And I will be better about that going forward. But for now, we'll get it done.
Is there a lot of inputting?
Tons. Yeah.
So
Tons.
maybe
We've done a lot of inputting.
I know, I'm sure,
Yeah.
but maybe a couple of Monty Tech kids could help out, and it'd be good.
Could
for them.
have, not now.
Not
Now we're, you know,
We're at-
we're kind
we're
of
on the
touching things
tail
up
end.
now. Most of the heavy lifting is done.
Okay.
You know, I'll be working on it probably tomorrow and Thursday, and then I'll be pretty happy with where it's at.
Got it.
But yeah, it's just another one of those things that we got to get done, and we'll get it done. But that's all I have.
Okay. Future agenda items? You have anything?
You keep working on the things that you're working on.
Good answer.
You can't take on more stuff than
No, I know.
you chew.
I know.
Somewhere along the line, I think as a future agenda item for next, we should talk about another holiday party for everybody.
We'll absolutely have a holiday party
Okay,
Friday before Christmas, or probably the day before
Right,
our Christmas
whatever.
break. Absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do. I
Yeah.
enjoy that.
I enjoy it too.
Take pictures all year just for
You
that.
enjoy it.
Work last year.
I didn't, I wasn't
You
You were working last year. You were in Princeton.
filling up Ben.
Yeah, that's right. I remember.
No, I think everything's going well. I mean, I apologize for not being around, but this is our busy season.
Yep.
I can't,
Okay,
can't push the
so
pedal any farther down.
no agenda. How you guys doing? Have any future agenda items? Have any comment?
We start our brush dump.
That's true.
Thank you.
Saturday coming up.
Yep.
I think we have 7 weeks
I think there's 7. Yep. Run right through like almost the beginning of right before Thanksgiving.
before Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Everybody who's got brush,
Right?
bring it on down.
Russian
Yep.
leaves.
Grass, leaves.
Right.
8 to 12 Saturdays behind the police station.
So your tax money can get rid of it.
Yeah,
Hey,
Did I say that a lot?
Right.
yeah, you did, but, you know.
We don't charge, just bring a dozen donuts and you're good to go.
Maybe two. Mike, anything?
Good.
No?
Good, thank you.
Okay. All right, well then, let's see, what time is it? Wow,
Let's go.
7:56,
Good job, guys.
meeting adjourned.